afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us for this month's Scholar Spotlight. I'm really excited to introduce you to Jonathan Ruiz Cervantes. He is an HDF multiple year recipient who is in his last year of grad school. So without further ado, I will let Jonathan introduce himself and tell you a little bit about his background.
So like Alex said, Jonathan Ruiz Cervantes. I'm currently getting my master's in social work. I'm in my first year of social work. I go to the University of Kansas. Eventually, I plan to go into a clinical social work, get my LSCSW, which is my licensed clinical social workers degree license, and then through that, practice mental health in the community. I've always been a super big advocate for mental health and community engagement. So I'm just really excited to be here with Alex. I've been an HDF scholar twice. Once when I applied when I was a freshman, when I was a rising college freshman. I used to go to Bishop Ward High School, and when I was applying to KU, I applied to the HDF and got it. And then I applied again when I was going into grad school, and I got it. So that's me. I've always had a special place in my heart for HDF and just the work that they do. And even in my current role right now, I work full time as a college advisor at a high school. Just seeing that the work that they do is just really impactful, and seeing when students get the scholarship, how it just changes a lot of their outlook towards college, just because this scholarship is more personal because they're essays, they put a lot of themselves in them in the essays. And it's just really awesome. So that's who I am, and that's my connection to HCF.
Well, that's an awesome intro. You and I met, I mean, we've corresponded before via email, but I did a presentation for Wyandotte High School a couple of weeks ago, and you were there. So I was presenting to the seniors about our scholarship. And, of course, we always try to like talk about what a great opportunity it is, but there is nothing like a current scholar sharing their story like you just did. And so it was really awesome, and I appreciated that day, you were able to say, I'm a scholar, definitely apply for this. And just like you mentioned, the scholarship, it's impactful. And for me, being part of the HDF team, one of the things that I take pride in, it's how our scholarship is open to all students, Hispanic, Latinx students from the greater Kansas City metro area, regardless of their citizenship status. 18% of our scholars have DACA or are undocumented. So I know in the Latino community here, there is not a lot of opportunities for that population. So we really take pride. And I know you and I were just talking about a little bit of your work and how you work with undocumented families, helping them work through the college prep process, whether it's FAFSA or how to fill out all those complicated forms. So tell us a little bit more about your current role with the
So
advising.
just a little bit of history. College Advising Corps is a national group partnered with AmeriCorps. And AmeriCorps, they also do Teach for America. They do a bunch of other programs like City Year. My specific program is headquartered at K-State. And we are placed in a bunch of high schools throughout the on the Kansas side. There's also a College Advising Corps for Missouri, and they're placed in Missouri schools. The Missouri Corps is bigger. They have three subsections. So they have the KC area, Southwest Missouri, and they have St. Louis. We only have the KC general metro area, in which there's, I think, 18 embedded advisors. And there's also a team of advisors who work with KC scholars, particularly. And I'm placed at Wyandotte High School. So I've always wanted to go back to USD 500 when we were doing the placements. I started off in USD 500 when I was younger. I ended up leaving for high school. I went to Bishop Ward High School, but I've always, held a special place in my heart for KCKPS. So whenever I applied to this job that I currently have, I decided to go back. And Wyandotte seemed like an amazing place. I met with the principal, Mary Stewart. She's an amazing leader, a very visionary. Just the team there, the atmosphere, the community, the teachers. The teachers there give 50% to their students. Even right now in the virtual setting, we have a big emphasis on advocacies. Each student is placed from freshman year to senior year and with a teacher who then goes with them throughout that whole 4-year process and is their advocate. They meet up on Wednesdays and they go over, whether it be college planning, career planning, talking about jobs, just general life coaching. Um, so it's really awesome working there. And for me, going into that environment as a young professional, having just graduated with my degree in political science, I definitely felt like I felt a little overwhelmed. But through
Mhm.
training and kind of just really just telling my story, that's how I got students to buy in with me.
Mhm.
There's a lot of whenever you're dealing with students, you have to create a buy-in, and I feel like that's the case with everything, really. A lot of my students who like when they saw me, they're like, "So clean slate, you don't know who I am." So I kind of told them, like, I grew up in KCK. I still live in KCK. I literally live around the corner from Sunfresh. Uh, you know, so I grew up here, and I from here. I'm a product of KCK. I love KCK with all my heart and the community. And I am also a testament to first generation college students,
Mhm.
particularly students that have I'm from a mixed migrant home. And what that is families with different immigration statuses in the house. A lot of our students identify with that at Wyandotte, and I identified with that. So I just kind of, was from day one an advocate. And then
Yeah.
working with HDF, John Kearney and the team and Alex has been pretty awesome because they understand our students. And I think it's important for a scholarship organization and definitely one that not only provides a scholarship, but provides that extra, programming, that extra mentorship, that extra direct community connection, to be aware of that, of where our students are coming from. The typical day really for me, well, before we went virtual, I would show up to work and I would do everything. Like I honestly volunteered for or whatever. Like I did door duty sometimes. I did metal detector duty sometimes. I chatted with my students. As I saw them come in, I'm like, "How's your morning? Put that hood down."
Yeah.
um, hey, I didn't see you yesterday at the end of the day. You usually walk by my office. What's going on? So it's just really kind of for me. It was really awesome. It's because it was my first job, and also just the connection I was making. I was happy to go to work every day, and a lot of students really looked up to me, and I also looked up to them too because a lot of the students have amazing stories.
Right.
One student in particular, at the end of the year, they did this note writing thing where you have to write a note to a staff member who you trust. And it was my first year, so I wasn't expecting to get any notes because there's other staff members in this building who've been around longer. Definitely have had more connection with the seniors, but I had a handful of seniors. They wrote notes to me, and that was very impactful. So, and that honestly, that took conversation, that took buy-in, that took me investing in their lives, not only getting hey, did you do your FAFSA, hey, did you do this, like, hey, what's
Mhm.
going on, how's your life going. So I just think it's really cool. And then a lot of my coworkers would always reference the fact that I'm a Hispanic male who's
Yeah.
bilingual, and how that's like important, especially the school I was placed
Mhm.
at. So I don't know, I just kind of working as a college advisor has been an amazing opportunity, really. And as I advance, going through grad school, I look back at all my past 2 years of experience, even virtual. Like I tried to keep up the momentum, try to keep up, having students buy in, having students be invested in Zoom calls. It's stressful. It's
Yeah.
very stressful. It's different. Um, and I try to be as graceful as I can with Zoom calls.
Yeah.
Parents hop on there, they have questions. I'm bilingual, I can answer them. And I just
Mhm.
think the biggest thing that I've seen right now, is parents being, parents wanting to be involved in the process that their students are involved in, but not being able to for language barriers. That's something my mom dealt with too. She doesn't speak English. Her English is not her first language. She's learning it. But I always had to, interpret things. I always had to, kind of like um, explain things to her, and that kind of is different than having a staff member actually speak
Sure.
Spanish. So I just really think that my experience there, my role there, has been just amazing. I've learned so much, and I've grown a lot, really. So
That's
yeah.
that's really awesome, Jonathan. Like everything that you're saying, I'm nodding my head. It just as a fellow educator, my background prior to coming to HDF, I was a college advisor, for the past 7 years. So I definitely was really excited when I went to Wyandotte High School and I saw you. I mean, it was virtual, right? But I was like, yes, a Latino male in education. Just like you were saying, even thinking about the demographics, right, in Wyandotte County, it's just, I didn't grow up around here, so I didn't realize like how big the Latinx community is, and the immigrant community, and just how diverse Wyandotte County is. So the fact that like you're telling me, that you grew up, that you live around some fresh, and just how students can relate to you and find that common ground. I know it can be like kind of cliche whenever people talk about like the fact that representation matters, but there is so much truth to that. I've heard that you can't dream about being something that you don't see, something along those lines, right? So now for students to see and learn about your journey and see themselves possibly doing, because you've done a lot of amazing stuff outside of education. And so, the fact that you're able to share those stories with them, to share with their families in Spanish, like that level of connection is just, you know, they're very lucky to have you. And that's the kind of work that, we're so passionate at HDF to get to do what we love every day and to have partners like you in our community, knowing that by now having you at Wyandotte, you're helping making our job easier, right? Because we're like, okay, he's there, he's got our back, he's got our kids. And so we know recently the new president of the board of USD 500. It's the first Latino to be elected, right? Randy Lopez. And so we saw how awesome that was whenever he was running his campaign, and just to see the community to actually get out and vote, because they were seeing like, okay, this is somebody who looks like us, who speaks Spanish, who has that immigrant experience. And so everything that you're saying, it's really exciting to see the diversity taking place and our students being, supported to the best of what you can all, do. So thank you for everything that you're doing. I know it's a really challenging time to be an educator right now. So like, what are you doing? I know about my own challenges as an educator, right? But what are some of the things that you're doing and your colleagues to stay motivated, and with you just barely coming into the field, you feeling like you're going to stick around?
So I feel like being an educator, for me, has stemmed from like my desire to go into the field has stemmed from me being a Kaufman scholar back when that was a program that was active. So Kaufman, the Kaufman Scholar Program, Mr. Kaufman, Ewan Kaufman, he had he had a vision for the youth of Kansas City, and so he started a scholarship organization to provide full rides. And when I got it to begin with, I was in sixth grade. That's when I applied, and then to see it come to fruition, growing up with that whole cohort, and we're all now young professionals, and we're just all going into the field, in different fields. For me, it just made sense going into education. I kind of have still like done things because like I went to school for political science and public policy. I still do things in my job that are public policy. I look a lot. I analyze a lot of legislation just because it interests me, and also I do some political work. I've done canvassing in the past before. I canvassed for Brent Welder. I canvassed for Sharice Davids. I was really involved in this past election as well because I was a community organizer for Mainstream Coalition. A fun fact, I actually have a Vice video out there that talks about my involvement in that specific branch. I was working with getting churches to engage in voting because for Latinos churches, these community hubs are super important, and that's where we get all of our news. That's where we get
Mhm.
all of our community interaction. That's where we get all of our, kind of like our tips and tricks. It's kind of where we get everything, for Latinos, that's really vital to our culture. And I just really, I saw a lot of value in, engaging churches to be civically active. And this past election, we had an amazing turnout throughout the entire Wyandotte County area. And that for me made me really happy because, this is my county. Like I grew up here, and seeing people be involved, seeing people here being heard is just
Mhm.
amazing. On many occasions, I've written letters to Sharice Davids about different issues. So I've just always kept it up, just being politically involved. I like politics, and I think I say something I tell people who are apolitical is my existence is political. Like
Mhm.
being here, my family's existence is political.
Yes.
Community's existence is political, and if I'm not political, I'm letting them down. If I'm not
Right.
advocate 24/7, who's going to be the advocate? If
Yes.
we who are outspoken young professionals in our own culture are not advocates, like, then who's going to do it for us? So that's
Mhm.
what I kind of tell people. And then in education, really, it just comes down to just, being a role model for people, being that person that, throughout my entire education career, I think I've had a handful. I could count on my hands the amount of Latinx and educators I've encountered, and
Right.
that's teachers and staff, like everything,
Mhm.
and including that, even less, Black professionals. And
Right.
I could count on my hands, and I grew up in KCK, and I just think that there needs to be more representation, and representation does matter. I know that's used up a lot
Right.
in social media, but it's true. And a lot of people who are probably listening to this, like you specifically, talking to you, um, you're a person of color. You're a person who has an identity that's marginalized.
Mhm.
Um, but that does not mean that you are less than other
Right.
people around you. It just means that you have challenges that you've overcome, and the generation after you, it's your duty to inspire them,
Right.
to do more than you. And that's what I've kind of like always tried to do. Younger Latino males at Wyandotte, I tell them, look, man, you got to do it. Education, it's very important. A lot of us are not that educated. Just speaking of, Latino males with bachelor degrees, it's very, very disproportionately low. And
Mhm.
even more, step further, Latino males with master's degrees, very, very low.
Right.
I tell students about that. I'm like, you want to go to you want to be an architect, you're going to get that master's degree, and you are going to be the pride of our community. I kind of tell them that, speak it into existence with a lot of our students, and it really goes a long way with them. And I genuinely believe a lot of my students will go do great and amazing things. I just hope they persist. It's just really hard right now with the pandemic, but I'm just hoping that they persist, and I kind of do my part in inspiring that, planting a seed of inspiration, and just hoping from there on they take that and um, act on it.
Yeah, no, it's definitely been a really challenging time. I've gotten to see as the semester goes on and students getting discouraged. So it's more important than ever for us educators in the community and to continue to be involved and not give up on our students because a lot of them have just gotten to the point where they're thinking, well, what's the point of going to college, right? Like I haven't seen my friends in 10, 11 months, and the levels of like anxiety and depression are just skyrocket right now. So it's amazing that students have folks like you in their corner that just like, you got to do it, you got to do it, right? It's worth it. And that's one of the things that we're also really excited about when you talk about education, that we just started a new scholarship program for students who are wanting to go into the trades and certificates, because we truly value all education, and we know that there is more than one path to get to accomplish your post-secondary goals. And so this is a brand new program, and so please, like, let your students know about it. If students are interested in pursuing a trade or a certificate, we have partnered up with Kansas City, Kansas Community College, Johnson County Community College, and Metropolitan Community College. So if students apply for our scholarship and they get it, they will get $1,000 from HDF, and then they will get that match by one of those three schools. So it's really, I think we're just walking the talk now that, yes, we are here to support whatever your post-secondary goals are. And so we're hoping that by having a new opportunity like this, more students will continue to pursue, different paths, but still having an education, right? So specifically during the pandemic, I think it's a great time for students to just continue to head in that direction. If some of the job prospects are not looking so good, it's like, might as well keep going and get your education and become, have increase your skill set and your knowledge so that you will be better prepared. Um, so you've mentioned that you're very like politically involved because you come from a marginalized community. Have you thought about in the future like running for office, or because I'm getting that vibe?
I have, and that's ultimately a goal that I have in life. I've always wanted to be a congressperson. I've always wanted to be a senator. I've always wanted to run for office. That's one of my dreams when I was a little kid. I said,
Uh-huh.
"Buddy, I want to be president," and I want to do it eventually. Right now, in this moment, I need to be an advocate for my community, and I need to do the work first.
Hmm.
um I can put everything aside, like kind of when I was a senior in college, picking out what I was going to do for work. I applied a bunch of places. I had a lot of options, but ultimately I I mean, I'm a faithful person, so I pray a lot. I
Hmm.
thought about it and I reflected on it and I prayed about it, and this seemed like the right thing to do, give back to my community, work and education. Um and all that will, I mean, honestly, down the road I definitely do want to run for office because I feel like, there needs to be people in our government who understand the education system,
Yes.
who know, sometimes the Pell Grant, like being Pell eligible, you know,
Hmm.
that gets cut off really low, you
Right.
know. There's people who, middle income folks who, um, like middle income folks who, can't afford to send their kid to college, but then they don't get hardly any, Pell money. Um, there's people who their taxes may say six figures, but that's because they have a business, you
Right.
know, and they have to pay taxes generally. And I just feel like there's a lot of issues with that. And also there's a lot of issues with, how we're treating our undocumented population. That has been one of my biggest, like heartstrings is our
Hmm.
undocumented population. Right now there's talks of, a reform. I want
Right.
to see that happen soon. DACA, I want to see that expanded. I definitely want to see all these policies change, and I want them to, and I want our people, like people who are Hispanic, Latino. I want our people to, be, like considered. I want us to be,
Right.
like not just a political, not just like a voting block when it comes to election time. I want people to actually advocate for us. That's why I admire one of my favorite politicians, AOC. She's just amazing. I admire her so much, and just like a lot of people like her, just are in politics. They're doing their thing. They're just going to work, but they're going to work because they advocate for the communities that that they got elected to represent. And I even admire our current representative, Sharice Davis. She's an amazing advocate for indigenous rights and people in Wyandotte County. She even opened an office here in Wyandotte County. That hasn't been seen in a while. It's just,
Mhm.
yeah. So your vibes that you're picking up are right. I do want to do it, and that's down the road. But right now, I'm just focusing on right now. Out of and you briefly touched on mental health. That's one of the
Mhm.
things that I try to practice a lot with my students. Kind of, hey, let's do some mindful thinking. Let's do some breathing exercises. Overwhelmed, you're doing fully virtual school, and a lot of these kids, they're
Right.
not just really schooling at 3 o'clock when everyone's supposed to, everyone teacher logs off, or most teachers log off, and we're done. They go to work.
Yeah.
They
I
go to
mean,
work,
we're
and
seeing with our the students that I work with too, sometimes I'll be on a Zoom with them and they don't turn on their camera. And I'm like, well, you know what? They showed up. Let's just give them credit that right now life is really rough, and showing up in and of itself it's a big step. And then other times, I've been on a call with them, and like they'll forget to mute, and you can hear them hollering like they're at work. So it's like they're working, but they're also showing up. So we're seeing how COVID has disproportionately affected our communities of color, and the fact that they continue to persevere and to show up, that just shows like the resiliency in our community. And I'm really excited to hear that you plan to continue to do advocacy work, starting with education and all the way up to someday representing us in Congress or as a senator. So that's super exciting. And you mentioned that you were featured in Vice News. So that didn't just sneak by, like I caught it. So tell us a little bit about how you ended up on Vice News.
so I was working with Mainstream Coalition, and my boss Lindsay got a media request, and she sent it to me. And they just wanted to highlight community leaders in KCK. Getting out the vote was super important. They were doing a whole series on it. So I get an email. I reply to it. I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. I'm open to it. Um, Even like when they were like, okay, cool. Well, we'll be there on Monday. And I'm like, oh, you guys are coming on Monday, like to Kansas City. Like, yeah, we're flying out. This is in this protocols. We'll follow the protocols, masks and everything. Obviously when you're getting filmed, you're not going to wear a mask, but that's because you're
Right,
going to be far from everybody. And I'm just like, oh, okay, so they're going to come interview me. And really, honestly, when they were at the door, it didn't hit me. Like, it hit me when they were at the door, that they're going to come interview me. And not really, like, I I honestly, when it happened, I didn't like post about it. I didn't like make a big deal. So I
right,
wanted to, I've always tried to be very humble. My friends posted about it. They like made a big deal on social media, and I was like, oh, thank you guys. That's sweet. But like what a lot of what I really said, it kind of like it was like why I got into policy, why I got into politics, why I'm even, involved. A lot of people get really drained by politics. I kind of am like, okay, bring it on. So
hmm,
I've always been a really motivated person when it comes to politics, and I kind of really wanted. When I was chatting with the lady who's going to interview me beforehand, we were just talking on the porch while they were setting up all the cameras, um, and it's really surreal. We were just talking about politics and kind of just for the framing of what we were going to talk about, and everything I said, she's like, "Wow, great! Say all of it, all
right.
of it." Uh, and the filming was long, but it was new,
Yeah.
and
Whenever
I'm
I get
really
into these conversations with our scholars, I tell them, oh, it's going to be like, 10 minutes. But then we get to talking, and you all have such like great stories and just amazing content that I'm like, oh, tell us more, because I know our community is so excited to hear about what our youth is doing. You are, the leaders of our that are up and coming. So these are just amazing stories, and we're really looking forward to seeing where life takes you in the next few years. And so, we're on our 36th, 37th year at HDF. So just thinking ahead, where can we find you in like 3 years whenever we're getting ready to have our 40th anniversary?
um I'll be working in mental health I'll be doing advocacy work on the side. I'll be a social worker in Kansas City. I'm planning on not leaving. Um, and who knows? Maybe I might start my law degree because I do want to go to law school. I know whenever I tell people what I'm planning, they're like, you're getting a master's and you
Uh-huh.
want to go get a degree." I'm like, yeah, of course I do. I want to be educated. Education is so important to me.
Oh my gosh, we
It
have to connect you. I have to connect you with one of our board members. She's an educator. She was a teacher, but now she's at KU Law. So she up and decided, I think, a very similar path to what you're doing because she was in education, did an amazing job, still continues to be an educator at heart, but now she's back in school, working on her law degree. So I'll have to connect you to Miss Kat Gerard.
I know
She's
her.
amazing. You know her?
Yeah, she's a migrant services support at she was at Olathe School District.
Well,
Yeah,
then I don't need to do anything. You're already. I'll have to tell her though that I talked to you.
she's an amazing person. We have a lot of our Olathe advisors work very closely with her. We
Mm-hmm.
work very closely with her. Now they work with whoever took over. But yeah, no, she's an amazing advocate. It's people like her who are in like in positions in districts to help. And
Right.
this is a long way. We need we have Tolentino here at KCKPS. Who a lot of people know who she is.
Yes.
In Shawnee Mission, that just like there's these people, professionals, that from our community who are there to advocate for our community. And that just goes a long way. It just really does. And but yeah, no, that's pretty common. I'm pretty much gonna do what she just did, what she did.
Well, great. Now you have, she's in our board. We have other attorneys in our board. Randy Lopez is actually on our board. So come to
Mhm.
one of our meetings sometimes. And, once we're back in person, we want to definitely have events and honor all of our scholars and specifically those of you who are getting ready to graduate. So stay tuned. We're going to have a celebration one way or another. But thank you so much for your time today and for sharing your amazing story. Like my favorite part about my job, even when, I'm not feeling so good and life is hard, just like thinking about all of you, thinking about our scholars just keeps me motivated every day and just knowing how amazing you're all doing. And we're just here to support you along the way. So make sure that you're staying connected with us and let us know how we would continue to be of support to you in your journey.
Yeah, definitely. I admire the work you guys do. I think I've said it already. You guys do amazing work for the community, and I just think we need more group scholarships, organizations who are don't just provide scholarships. They provide that extra help,
Mhm.
because it's so needed, especially nowadays. And I think last year I wrote in my essay, what would you do like with this money? And I
Yes.
was like, a scholarship organization that provides mentorship because mentorship
Mhm.
is important. And
Oh, maybe you can help us become a volunteer. We're often looking for volunteers to help us grade essays. Of course, for you, a lot of the students, so we would have to like make it a blind process. But we're always looking for volunteers, and there's no one better than our community, our alumni. So I'll be hitting you up again for sure.
yeah, definitely.
All right, Jonathan. Well, thank you so much again for your time, and I appreciate you joining our HDF community. Is there anything else that you like to say before we wrap up?
No, just everyone who's watching this, I know I just spouted a lot and I'm in grad school, so how is it relevant to me? To keep at it. I was an undergrad. It was hard. It was hard adjusting that first year. Tap into your resources. Go to the multicultural center. Go to student
Mhm.
services. Get that tutoring. There's no shame in it. If it's free, it's for me. If it's free, it's
Right,
for me. That
right.
mindset.
It's happy.
um, yeah. So just tap into your resources, and you got this. You really do.
Muchas gracias. Keep up with what you're doing. You make us proud and look forward to continue working with you.